There are many different types of creators in the Team Fortress community. Some of them are dreamers, head always in the clouds. Others are more realistic, always keeping expectations small and manageable. And which one am I? I am a winner! And you're not. Sorry to be so blunt about it, but it's just the truth. I'm a winner, I'm better than everyone else, and I've got the one and only Team Fortress 2 item that proves it. This is a Saxxy Award. It's about as rare as a golden wrench. It turns people to gold, it's all class, and you had to be a winner to get one. It all started nearly 15 years ago when Valve said, send us your very best source film animated movies, and if it gets the most votes, then we'll give you an award. They haven't hosted one of these contests in nearly 8 years, so I wouldn't blame you for not knowing about it. There's a bit more history to the awards, but we're here to talk about me, and how once upon a time I animated something so profound, the Team Fortress 2 community as a whole decided they had no choice but to award me for it. Now, despite being one of the most important things anybody can be awarded ever, I haven't really talked about my Saxxy Award on this channel before, and that's for a few reasons. First, because I wanted to separate myself from the success of my animation career. But also, and more importantly, I haven't mentioned it because it's not just any Team Fortress 2 item, it's a special item. So it has to be a special event. It has to be an occasion. It has to be a story. Long before I was the handsome, successful, chiseled, grizzled, 20-something BreadMann you see before you today, I was just a bread boy. One who wanted to take the world. As a blank slate, my potential was limitless. I had a whole life ahead of me to do with whatever I wanted. So, as dreamers do, I didn't just look up. I didn't just shoot for the moon. I took aim at the stars and decided to go even higher, all the way to the prestigious Team Fortress 2 Movie Maker. That's right. The dream wasn't always to make Team Fortress 2 story times. I wanted to make movies. See, sometime around 2012, immediately following my consumption of the critically acclaimed masterpiece Meet the Spy, my brain changed a little bit. I had seen animated things before, but this one was different. I didn't just like it, I kinda loved it. And I started to watch as many SFM animations as I could. I don't think I would have been able to articulate why at the time, but these animations really just made me fall in love with the art of storytelling. The Bolted Behemoth, End of the Line, Practical Problems, Crunk Channel, Burning Through Space, Birdist Friend, Heavy's Horrific Halloween. I dare you to try and find the name of an old SFM animation that I haven't seen, because I guarantee you can't. This might sound silly, but I think the very first time that I ever felt an emotion in my entire life might have been because of the SFM Defect. From the robot sniper's fear of fighting to his conflict with the Heavy and his mission, and oh my god, they're fighting. Oh my god, the sniper's losing. Somebody do something. Oh my god. Oh wait, no. The Heavy, he gained emotion. Oh no, and he feels bad for what he did. No, oh my god, it's the red team. No, they're killing him. They're killing the Heavy. No, oh my god, and the sniper's, he's gonna sacrifice himself. No, he's gonna sacrifice himself for his new friend. And now the Heavy is alone. He's saved, but he's all alone, and he misses his friend. I think Defect is truly one of the best short stories to ever grace this video platform. It's got good comedy, the cinematography is impeccable, it's well animated, it's got a little bit of heart, and it won the 2014 Saxxy Award for Best Drama, which, perhaps a little bit unsurprisingly, just so happens to be my favorite category of animation for the awards. I found myself obsessed with the way that these shorts could make me feel with just limited dialogue, music, and expressive movement. In other words, I was fascinated by the process of instilling emotion into the hearts of others just by telling a good story. All of this is to say that I was feeling a little inspired. And after finding out that the source filmmaker was a free piece of software, I got to work. And a short while later, on May 29th, 2015, I've released my very first animation ever.
Whoa. That's foreshadowing.
He's visiting the grave of his fallen family.
Is it about to be tragic?
The 10th class.
I know.
The chemist.
Oh, it's the dog.
What the f was that barrel in the background?
Oh, you put the candle.
We didn't light the candle.
Oh, wait, big reveal.
Even after death, the demons still stalk us as our knees clip into the ground.
And having created his magnum opus, BreadMann won all the awards he ever wanted and lived happily ever after. Honestly, for my first time using a piece of 3D animation software ever, I don't even think it's that bad. It's not award-winning, but I definitely thought it was back in 2015, so naturally, all that was left for me to do was start working on a submission for the Saxxys and win myself an award along with the title of Best SFM Animator Ever. In total, I have submitted exactly 3 entries into the awards. What I want to do is walk you through all 3 of them, detail what I learned, how I improved, and eventually, how I won my award. Let's start with my first, favorite, most ambitious, and worst entry, Dreams. This piece of media was birthed again from my desire to make something that would be emotionally impactful. It was inspired by this incredibly copyrighted piece of music that sounded a little bit like this. A 14-year-old BreadMann heard that song and had a vision. He saw a man who dreamed of flying up in the air like a dove. And he saw this man go on a journey filled with ups, downs, highs, and lows. He saw this man who wanted to fly reach out for his dreams and take him by the neck. To this very day, when I listen to that song, I can still vividly see the vision and story beat for beat, and I think there's some real merit to it. What I want to do is talk about how I used my literary genius to write the story and methodically walk you through our hero's journey. But I think it's probably more important that I focus on the fact that I still knew virtually nothing about 3D animating. So if I was gonna make this animation real, then I had a little bit of catching up to do. From around August of 2015 to I believe September, I worked on this every single day. It was my absolute #1 priority. I wanted my shots to be detailed and beautiful. I wanted my backgrounds to tell their own story and help reflect on the emotional state of our protagonist. The movement had to be natural, it had to be human. Even emotion as simple as a wrench hitting a new invention got hours of work put into it. I storyboarded, I expanded on the concepts and brought my story to life. And at the end of that long, grueling few months, here's what I submitted.
No,
Who is?
Yes! Yes!
Never let your dreams be dreams, people.
I must say, I do not believe this is a good animation. I do not deserve the Saxxy by a long shot. But I want to share a story and want people to keep the name Dreams as much as possible, as not everything you see are mistakes. Don't forget to vote. Wise words from a younger, perhaps more naive BreadMann. Why acknowledge the quality of the thing you just made and try to improve when you can just say, no, looks bad on purpose. Somebody literally put this thing in a playlist for the worst Saxxys of 2015. Although, I do believe it got about 7 votes, so it wasn't all bad. I wish I could just play through the video in its entirety and just give my commentary on it, but it's literally almost 5 minutes long, so I guess I'll just have to leave a link to it so you can watch the whole thing yourself. So what did Dreams teach me? It taught me that I'm not very good at this whole animation thing. And if I want to improve my entry for next year, I'm gonna have to shorten my scope just a little bit. Work on something less ambitious, a smaller, simpler story with less environments to develop, less character movement, simple animation. So simple that maybe the characters don't even move at all. My 2016 entry to the awards was called Passing Through. Another dramatic piece from my catalog, one with a unique twist. Instead of telling my story through gesticulation, I was going to tell it through moments. I wanted the viewer to feel as though they were witnessing an event as opposed to just watching a video. It was a quiet, intimate moment in time that we just happened to be around for. We, the watchers, are just passing through, figuratively and literally. The camera slowly moves through the television at the center of the scene to both reset it and simulate the slow passage of time. My thought back then was that if I spent less time actually animating, then I could put more focus into poses, presentation, and of course, the story. If you hadn't gathered it by now, I'm a man with a dramatic flair, and the things that I make tend to reflect that in some pretty absurd ways. This time around, my goal was to collect some tears, so passing through had to be a sad story. We enter the scene. It's late at night. The house is a mess, and our lovely heavy weapons guy has fallen asleep with the TV still on. And what's this? He's woken up by something just out of sight. Perhaps something else is passing through. Perhaps someone else is passing through. Perhaps it's a home invasion with a really bad ending. I cannot begin to fathom what was going through my head as I made this. The whole story is literally the Heavy from Team Fortress 2 wakes up to a burglar in his house and then gets shot dead by a second burglar. It's a real gut-wrenching tragedy that went live to the voting populace on November 6th, 2016, and I was nervous. The previous year was an absolute disaster, and I didn't even notice until somebody else said something. So after posting, I just sat and waited for the reviews to start rolling in. Nice concept for using the TV for the transitions. They're a little rough though. Some shots are a little abrupt. It seemed good on paper, but when you play it out, it doesn't really work. This is a creative way to tell a story. I would love to see more like this. I have to say, I really adore the way you told the story, and the music was also perfectly fitting. But the animation was rather poor. I know you know this, but I thought I'd mention it again. And you are most likely not going to win a Saxxy with this video. However, if you keep up your creativity like that and maybe improve your animation skills a bit, you won't have a hard time competing with the big boys such as the Winglet. A lot of the comments share the sentiment that there's a good idea here and the concept is solid, but the execution definitely needs some work. And they're right. Passing Through is not an award-winning animation. It's just alright. But alright is better than the worst. It's a huge step up from my submission the previous year, and a lot of people noticed. I got 146 votes that year, which is exactly what I needed. Not so few that I felt bad, and not so many that it kept me from improving. And improve I did. Instead of beginning work on my next entry, I decided that I would work on a few smaller projects that would help me learn how to animate different obscure things. Those of you in the business might call that an animation study. For example, I wanted to learn how to simulate things floating in water, so I made the animation Heavy Soup. I think that Heavy Soup is probably the best animation that I have ever made, hands down. Following that, I wanted to learn how to animate delicate things, like breathing and blinking. So I made the space between, which featured both breathing and blinking. And then I stopped making SFMs for a while. 2 art studies was enough to make me an expert, but I was also feeling kind of burned out at the time. I'd been making probably 2 videos a week for about 2 years, and the last thing that I wanted to be doing was getting insulted online for making bad animations. It's not that I didn't want to keep practicing, but I wasn't feeling particularly inspired at the time. There's only so many times you can tell the story of a man being shot dead in his own home without it getting just a little bit stale. And I've never really been in the business of posting a video just to post a video, so I did the unthinkable and decided to take a break. I spent my time relaxing. A few days went by, and then a few weeks, and then a few months, and eventually, I forgot about the Saxxy Awards altogether. It seemed like I was moving on. I was growing up. I wasn't the bread boy with a sparkle in his eye anymore. I was a jaded, dimming ember of an award-seeking forest fire. I didn't have time for childish things like chasing my dreams anymore. And then it hit me. It hit me like a semi-truck running over a jaded, dimming ember of an award-seeking forest fire. I wasn't the only one that forgot about the awards. Valve also forgot about the awards. They forgot about the awards like an amnesiac that forgot to host his own award show. Normally, the Saxxys were first announced around August, but it was already September and there was no news about when or where the submissions were due. Time had blown by like a gust of wind from a semi-truck, actively running over the jaded, dimming embers of an award-seeking forest fire. And how tragic is that? There was never going to be another Saxxy Award given out, ever. This celebration of Team Fortress 2 and its strong community was fading to time with little fanfare. I was sad. I was devastated. I couldn't cope. The award had slipped right through my fingers. Like an umbrella being torn out of my hands by a gust of wind caused by a semi-truck actively running over the jaded, dimming embers of an award-seeking forest fire formerly known as BreadMann. I missed my chance and there was nothing I could do. That is until December 5th, 2017, when Valve posted to the blog.
It's time to announce the Saxxy Awards for 2017, and we couldn't be more excited. The submission deadline is March 8th, 2018. Check out the guidelines for details on the rules and deadlines, and get your entries ready.
My God, of course. The 2017 awards were going to be hosted in 2018. And while this was good news, not all was well. The community wasn't going to chalk up the delayed awards to a mere mistake, and neither was I. Valve had already been losing interest in supporting TF2, and it was clear to us all this was going to be the final year Valve ever hosted the Saxxys. This was it. One more Saxxy entry to go, one more chance to achieve my dreams. This time, I planned to have my characters actually move, and I came up with a killer idea. Something multi-dimensional. I wanted my viewers to cry, but I also wanted them to smile and laugh. All the best SFMs take you through a dramatic range of feelings, and I was about to do the same. The submission date was approaching fast, but I worked faster and harder. Harder than I had ever worked on a video before. And before I knew it, the competition was already being posted, and it was obvious which one of us would be getting the votes this year. Heavy Soup 2, baby! Yeah! Yes! Heavy Soup 2! It's heavier soup! Alright. I know the jig's probably up by now. I probably didn't do a stellar job of convincing you that I won a Saxxy Award. I gotta come clean. The truth is that I never did end up exactly winning a Saxxy Award, but that's not to say that I never got one. I know right now you're probably writing some comment about how it couldn't be true. You're thinking the same things that I used to. I must have been cheated. The Winglet must have rigged the votes. and the other nominees had an insider at Valve, but the hard truth is that I just wasn't good enough at animating to have ever had a shot. And it breaks my little bread heart, but honestly, I'm still not good enough. And I don't want that to come across as me putting myself down, because while I might not be making this, I'm also sure as hell not making these anymore. I'm very proud of how far I've come and how much my craft has evolved. And more than anything else, I'm just happy with how much I've learned over the years. The first thing I learned being that animating is not easy. And to prove it to you, I'm gonna make a walk cycle right now. You know, if I'm being honest, it doesn't look nearly as bad as I thought it was going to, but this is the first walk cycle I've made in like 8 years, and this took 20 minutes. And that's what my biggest issue has always been. I just don't have the patience for something this tedious, meticulous, and time-consuming. And there's nothing more disheartening than actually taking the time, spending hours on an animation just for it to look stiff, robotic, and bad. Which meant that instead of learning how to animate, the very second thing I learned was how easy it is to pass off other people's animation as your own. And before you say anything, I wasn't stealing, I was just using publicly available, free-for-use, pre-made animations posted to the Source Filmmaker Steam Workshop. And how could you blame me? In literal seconds, I was able to go from this to this. And all I had to do was none of the work that goes into animating. Finally, I could make people walk in my movies. No, it's not a very flashy animation, and I'm not gonna change it even a little bit to fit the scene better, but he sure is moving. It gets the job done, right? And this trap of finding as many pre-made animations as I could so I could skip as much work as possible apparently has a really steep slope. It got so bad at one point that if I didn't have a pre-made animation for something, that character probably wasn't gonna move. The end result of this was a lot of mediocre animations that had my own ideas behind them with half-baked results. And over time, over several years, I started to learn a third thing. A secret third thing that most people won't tell you about making a piece of art. When you do it all yourself, no matter how bad it is, you're gonna be proud of it when it's finished. Every single one of my old animations is fun to go look at, but my favorite ones are the few of them that were 100% made by me. And this idea that the things I do myself are objectively more satisfying has influenced every part of my online life for a very long time now. I don't use light prefixes in SFM. When I want to learn something new in After Effects, I try my best to build it from the ground up. I write all my scripts 100% myself, and even though I still to this very day have TF2 walk cycles installed, you'll never see me animate a character walking ever again. Which is why now I use motion capture for my more complex movement. I use an Xbox Kinect camera to track my movement and import it into SFM. This is literally me moving. It really doesn't get any more BreadMann than that. And it's not perfect, but that's what makes it mine. Yeah, I'm always trying to get better, but I've grown to love the imperfections in my work. So to bring it full circle, no. I never have and never will win a Saxxy Award. Despite how much I might have wanted one, it just wasn't in the cards for me. But, like I just said, these days, I'm all about doing things by myself, for myself. And I guess if nobody else is gonna give me one, I might as well award it to myself. So I would like to present this Saxxy Award to BreadMann. Not for making the best animations there ever were, but for providing the internet with the most BreadMann animations he could.
Oh my god. Wait, really? I won? Me? I won? Oh my god, okay,
Firstly, I want to thank BreadMann for letting me use his ideas whenever I needed to animate something. And secondly, I want to thank BreadMann for actually doing the horrible animation that won this award. And I thank you to BreadMann for supporting me emotionally through the entire award season and being my rock when I felt down, keeping me in good spirits and in good health, really. Lastly, I want to thank BreadMann for finally awarding me with Saxxy after all these years. It might not turn people to gold like all the other ones do, but it'll make a fine addition to my great collection.